So hello everyone again. This will be the last workshop series. I'm going to talk about the economic feasibility of the value-added dairy products. To be honest with you, I'm kind of scared to introduce this topic because we have a lot of feelings about the numbers, right? Some people feel like, well, I'm not a big fan of the calculating the profits and price and etc. Some people feel like, well, this is not my field. But I will try to slow down and break it down in like easy, simple way to deliver this economic feasibility concept for the value-added dairy products, so that we could finally connect the dots that what we've learned from the previous workshops, and also like those kind of value-added dairy products using the extruder is actually coming up with the profitability or not. Well, it's very complicated to answer the economic feasibility, but like throughout the hands-on activity sessions, we're gonna try to change the couple of the numbers and see that how this magic really works, okay? All right, so let's start with the big picture. The dairy supply chain from the dairy farming to the dairy wholesaling, right? Each sector has a different characteristics, like in terms of financial characteristics, just as different revenues and profit margins and number of business in each different sectors. So when you look at the dairy farming sectors, the total revenue back in 2024, this is the data from the 2024, it was $52.1 billion. And between 2020 to 2025, there is a steady growth, at least 1% increase of the revenue, which means that quite steady and economically profitable market. What is the profit? Which is the $9.6 billion, which represents the profit margin. That is 18.5%. What it means by this number is that, as I draw the fancy graph here, right, the total revenue is $52.1 billion, and this green area captures the profit margin, which is $9.6 billion. That can be translated to the profit margin, which is 18.5%. We have total business number in the dairy farming, which is about 24,546 number of the business that are available in the dairy farming. Okay. What about the dairy manufacturing? The total revenue is $124.4 billion. There's some decrease in terms of the growth rate for the revenue, about 3.2% from 2020 to 2025. But still there's a profit, which is $2.9 billion, which is a little thinner than before, right? And then the profit margin is 2.3%. It's mainly because of the what? The cost, which is the darker green area. And the number of business in the United States is about 744. What about the dairy wholesaling? Revenue, $150 million, steady growing market. Profit margin is $1.6 billion. Profit margin is 1.4%. Hardly see, right? Where's my profit, right? And then business number is that 1,269. I know dairy is such a complicated industry, so we cannot divide it like a dairy farming, manufacturing, dairy wholesaling, right? This is actually interconnected a lot. Some business owners having a dairy farming and manufacturing at the same time. And like a big dairy farm, the manufacturers also own the manufacturing, also the wholesalers as well. So it's very difficult to define each sectors and the profits and margin. But these numbers will gonna kind of give you idea, where's my pie, right? So in the dairy farming, we do have 52 billions of the pie, right? Imagine that we're gonna slice it the pie with the equal size based on the business number. Assume that each business is gonna get the exactly same revenue. It's gonna be $384,000 per business, right? So even though this is not your business profit or not your business revenue, but when you think about the pie, they are available in that market, and you're gonna slice it, and each slice will gonna be basically business owner will gonna be take it, right? And this kind of concept will gonna be give you that idea, okay, what would be the size of the pie? What kind of profit or revenue I could expect? depends on the different supply chain.
Could you,
Yes.
sorry,
Sure.
can you, the first two pillars I get,
Mhm.
but just from a definitional standpoint, can you unpack a little bit dairy wholesaling? Is it the brand that actually is on the shelf? Is it the distributor that's in the middle? Is it the retailer that's at the end?
It's
Is it
include
all-
the. It's a very good question. It's include the distributing and retailing. Based on this is the numbers that I've got from the IBIS word, which is dominantly used for the consumers analysis and data set. And based on the definition here, the dairy wholesaling is including the distributing and the retailer. Yeah. Did I answer your questions?
Yeah, I'm just struggling with the numbers.
Okay.
Just that,
It's kind of a bit off.
my experience exactly the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Dairy farming, you struggle with profit, because of consolidation and loss of farms and that sort of thing. And then
Because
there's-
of this, the number of business,
Yeah.
right? Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Think about the monopoly. Like imagine that in Pomona, like this is the city name in Pomona, right? If you are the only one producers, you don't have to worry about the size of pie, right? You're gonna get whole pie. But if there's more and more competitors are available within the same region, basically you're gonna slice the pie multiple times, right? And then each slice of maybe pizza or pie will gonna be determined based on how many number of businesses actually available in the market. So that's the reason. It feels like here there's so much profit, but when you slice the pie about 24,000 times, the slice of pie that you're gonna get will gonna be eventually very small, right? And I get your point that each business, especially the dairy farming sectors, is most struggle part of in the dairy supply chain, yeah, right? So kind of added the later on, when you think about the dairy manufacturing, there's only 744 the number of businesses are available in the United States. So again, even the size of pie is smaller than the dairy farming, because the number of business, there are not many competitors at the end. The pie that each business can take would be a little greater. But as you can see, the pie, the size of pie that the dairy manufacturing has is getting smaller, right? So that's why we prepare this session, how we're going to increase the pie for the dairy manufacturers. Yes?
Sorry, I have a question about the dairy manufacturing
Mhm.
business number. Is that when you say dairy, is that all dairy products?
Yes, all dairy
All
products.
dairy and cheese?
Mm-hmm.
744 nationally.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel? I'd love to update the data if you have like specific number
I
of the
honestly don't
manufacturers.
know.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
shocked that
Yeah,
that's the number.
and who knows, sorry, data source is what, just so I can,
From IBIS word.
okay. Because if you define, I think this is where you're going, which is, let's just say, we have specialty cheese makers in the United States. There's more than 744 of those.
Yeah, just of
You know,
those.
Mhm.
and I think this could be that if it's a large dairy, a Hillmar cheese or a CDI.
Like a bigger farms,
Probably that, but
Mhm.
there's literally thousands of dairy manufacturers, that are not on the radar. They're kind of probably stuck somewhere in dairy farmstead. It's just, I think it's just, I'm the same way. I'm kind of struggling wrapping my head
And
around
it
the
might
data.
mean when they say dairy, they mean something really specific like fluid milk or butter
Big plants. Those are
Mhm.
large.
Yeah.
Those are really large plants
Yeah.
that are,
Right.
Versus,
Well, That's true. Like even like when you think about all the data sources, like from the USDA, for example, like most of the data are kind of off the track. It's because they could not count every single individuals, every single firms that are available, like within the sector or within the United States. So the number would be a little bit off. But what I wanted to focus is like think about the pie. Like what would be the general size of pie that we have between farming and manufacturing and wholesaling. So definitely, based on the slice of pie that each sector can get, the farming is difficult. Dairy manufacturing is actually good, pretty good, but in terms of size of pie, it's getting smaller. Dairy wholesaling is still growing market at the end. I just kind of addressed the kind of challenges for each sectors. Well, there's lots of numerous sectors that, lots of challenges that each sector we're going to be think of, but mainly the fluid milk demand dips. Thankfully, the California, we don't really experience a lot of the demand dips for the fluid milk, but overall, in general, in the United States, based on the USDA data, the fluid milk consumption is a little bit decreased steadily. There's a lot of milk prices changes, climate change, regulation standard, and new tariff, and those all kinds of regulations and situations and environment is actually impact on the dairy farming market. What about the manufacturing? Well, we are experiencing increasing material costs every single year, not just because like something happened, maybe there's some external shocks that happen, the material costs increased, but in general, because of the inflation rate, we're gonna always experience the increasing material costs every single year, right? Not this all, labor cost is a huge issue, especially in California. Consumption pattern is changes so fast, right, as we talked about in the first presentation. And there's always investment and upfront costs is required for the food manufacturer. What about the dairy wholesaling? They need to keep up with the change in demand, right? There's a new market, a growing market for the plant-based meat. The consumers change their preferences. Like there's a health trends and lots of innovation in packagings, and there's lots of challenges in each sector is actually faces. So the point is that, well, why not? We wanted to increase the pie as much as we can, okay, so that we could brought up these dairy products, which is much more profitable than before. And one of the solutions would be the value-added food products. And these products are gonna be including all processing or marketing farm commodities in the ways that increase their value, often by expanding the customer base or increasing revenue for the producers. So these are just a couple of examples that the milk products with the cultured low-fat milk, right? I just wanted to focus on the unit price, which is 12 cents per ounce, right? What about the yogurt, which is from the Ratio brand? As you can see that there's a 25 gram of the protein that included lots of different protein sources like whey protein in here, right? What about the snacks, like a chocolate peanut butter bar? It also contains the protein blend, such as milk protein isolate, whey protein isolate, and whey protein concentrate to increase the level of protein, and also it charges 76 cents per ounce. So what I wanted to address the point is that, well, yeah, we love cool, textured and great flavor of the fluid bottled milk, but what if we use this milk as an ingredient, as an intermediate goods and ingredients for lots of processed food? And that is the way that we're going to open the door for the value-added products, and that will be the way that we're going to increase the pie in the market, especially for food manufacturing and also the farming sectors as well. This is just economic stats about how much they could get, like a total cash expenses and net cash farm income, right? Well, I just kind of give you some idea that how other food industries did that. So you will see that billions of the dollars of each sectors, and you can look at the pie, right? Well, obviously dairy is like kind of lower than other the food markets such as grains and oilseeds and fruit and vegetable and nuts and also the cattle markets. But still there is a strong market compared to the hogs and poultry, right? So this is like the white portion, especially for dairy, is a substantial compared to the total expenses. As you can see that white area is a net cash farm income, while the black line is the total expenses, which means that this white cap can be grown more based on the selling and innovating more of the value-added products later on. So why value-added dairy is California's next big advantage? The dairy gross output includes the fluid milk sales, but its profitable potential grows when milk is processed into the different formats. Why don't we use this, the milk as ingredients? Like, of course, this conventional product is great, like the cheese, yogurt, and butter, protein powders, and ice cream, and specialty products, right? What about the hybrid cheese plant-based that what we navigate in the yesterday's workshops, right? And definitely there's a lot of advantage of these products. Definitely we could extend the shelf life and also the captures of premium markets and allow the price differentiation that can buffer producers from raw milk price volatility. So I believe the future trends will gonna be these three. The diversity formulations with the hybrid products, right? Remember that we kind of captures the barcode using the UCA app in the yesterday, right? When we just captures the moon cheese, right? There's a huge amount of saturated fat, right? Which is actually good fat, but it shows the red flag in that app, right? What if we could blend it with a lots of plant-based protein or like corn flours, corn meals, or pea starch and pea concentrate and see that make it more nutritional and also healthy and value-added products so that we could increase the pie at the end, okay? So there's a lot of ways that we could do the economic feasibility, but for this workshop, we're gonna mainly focus on the hybrid products as we kind of working on with the actual ingredients in the yesterday. We're gonna do some economic feasibility that if we change the recipe, like for example, if we have a 50% of cheddar trim with another 50% of the cornmeal, and how that will gonna be increase the profit and margin at the end in the market to give you more idea that what would be the expected profit for that. Developing new product lines is difficult. Of course, it requires a significant upfront investment, and absolutely the advanced processing often means purchase costly equipment and upgrading the facilities. So without clear financial modeling, the producers, we're going to risk lots of long payback periods and high debt loss and products that fail to meet profitability targets. So what we want to suggest is that let's do some economic feasibility analysis, ensure that get some idea about realistic cost-benefit projections and understanding the potential profitability so that the manufacturers and producers can making a better decisions. All right. Now it's a hard part. Are you ready to dive into the economic feasibility? Yes? All right. So let's explore how to turn great product ideas into the profitable realities by linking the whole processing stages to solid financial results. In the next 3 slides, I'm going to introduce the 11 financial concepts and investment evaluation tools that will be introduced. Of course, there are some formulas and numbers will gonna comes up, but I will try to use my plain word as much as I can so that all students and also industry professionals will gonna get some idea why these are important for the economic feasibility. All right, so let's start with the warming up with the revenue, total cost, and the profit, right? Revenue, it can be calculated based on price times volume, right? Straightforward, right? And what about the total cost? So the total cost has a little bit different story, like it includes the fixed cost plus the variable cost. So the fixed cost is the cost do not change with the level of production or sales within a certain range. Like for example, the factory rent and salaries of the staff and engineers, employees, and insurance and depreciation rate will gonna be considered as a fixed cost. Variable cost, that is cost that change in direct proportions to the production volume or sales. Like for example, the raw materials. If you wanted to produce 10 millions of the gallons of 10 million pounds of the value-added products, right? That will gonna be, the cost will gonna be changed if you wanted to aiming for 100 million pounds of the value-added products, right? So those are considered as a variable costs, right? Revenue and total cost, it gives a lot of informations for the business, but I think the main thing is a profit, right? Profit is determined by total revenue minus total cost, okay? So based on the price, then whatever the volume you're gonna sell, that one gonna be extracted by the cost, and this profit will actually give you more idea about the financial analysis, right? So I know it's pretty straightforward topics, but I want you to kind of think about it. Imagine that you're gonna run a yogurt factory with a 10,000 monthly lease, maybe 20 cents packaging cost per cup, 40 cents milk cost per cup, and 2,000 monthly office advertising expenses. What would be the total variable cost if you produce thousands of cups? Can we define the variable cost first? What are the variable costs in this case? Packaging and milk cost, right? Those are the two variable costs. So if you summation of these added up, this variable cost, and times 1,000 cups, that will gonna be? Total variable cost, right? I'm not gonna ask you to, calculate everything. We don't have to play with that. There's AI, we do have Excel. The understanding concept would be, I think, the most important, okay? So now we talk about revenue, total cost, and profit, right? And now the next, what I want you to talk about is margin. Are you ever watched the Shark Tank? I'm a big fan of Shark Tank. There's a really interesting the YouTube shorts that depict the point. I'm not sure that how we're gonna increase the volume. Let me see. Can we do this?
Need performance your peak.
Three things, Greg. They need focus, training, and grit.
Should we really throw that?
You guys have insurance for that?
Grit is something we all take for granted. But what if we told you there was a revolutionary material that could alter performance outcomes in virtually any sport?
Yeah, you tipped over the machine. That right there, you moved the machine tipping, which is your peak, so you actually lost a little bit there. You were still a 60% improvement in the overall torque. How much are you selling them for? This bottle right here is $35.99. It's about 100 doses.
And how much does it cost you to make it?
We prefer to have that discussion offline.
Yeah, Shark Tank.
How are we going to make a
And
determination?
we have, respectfully, 67% margin on our product.
So you don't want us to work backwards, right? If you say you have 67% blended margins, then they know. The fact that you gave us your blended margins would tell us your cost just to go out of me, so I'm out.
Wow.
James, what do all athletes need?
So what does that mean? So what he said is that the product price is $35.99. And he said he wanted to reveal the margin, but he doesn't want you to tell the cost to I think that his name is Martin. I'm not sure. Is that right?
The shark?
Yes, the Shark Tank.
Mark.
Mark Cuban, right. Yeah, Mark Cuban. He said, what are you talking about? You want to reveal the margin without the cost? It's impossible, right? So what it means is that,
With your teeth?
oh, hopefully this one works. Okay. What this margin refers to is that 67% of 35.99 cents is actually captures the profit, And while the 33% of $35.99 is going to be $11.88, which will be the cost, right? So that's the margin, right? Imagine the price of the product is again like pie, like a circle, right? If there's a profit margin, it looks like this, and the rest of the area will gonna be considered as the cost of producing the product, okay? So here's the margin. The way that we could calculate is selling price per unit minus cost per unit and divide by the selling price per unit. But again, for the hands-on activity, I've already embedded all the formula in the Excel, so you don't have to calculate it again. But I just want to address what is the difference between the margin and markup. Margin is what portion of my selling price is actually profit, while the markup is how much above cost am I charging. I'm going to give you a graph. This talks about the margin, and this graph shows the markup, okay? So margin is, imagine that this whole pie captures the price of the product, and this will gonna be, the profitability will gonna be captured by the margin, while the rest of the area is a cost. But the markup is different story, because as you can see that the profit they were gonna expect it is almost twice greater than cost, right? So that's why the markup is almost 200% of the cost. Okay? So these kind of financial index will going to be definitely help you to understand what would be the price strategy, and the way that you're going to invest will going to be generate the profit later on. So let's come back to other financial concepts. Break-even point for the unit. That captures that how many products do we need to sell to cover all our costs. In break-even point, the main assumption is that your profit is zero. Well, of course, we don't want it to make a profit zero, but the break-even point is actually tells you that how many units you need to sell to cover, at least like make it the zero profits. And there is a way that we could calculate establishing the selling price of the new product. And again, this will gonna be added in the Excel file that I'm gonna share for the afternoon session. Okay, these are the last one. Just imagine that you're a Shark Tank, right? And then the items, the series of items is almost 5, will gonna be the best and quick investment evaluation tools, okay? I know there's a bunch of jargons all over here, but let's look at the ROI. This will be the return on invest. Lots of manufacturers ask me that what is ROI? It is important indicator, but ROI does not explain a lot of things. So as you can see that simple equation is basically net profit that assumed divided by the investment. For example, if you spend 400K for the extruder, right? 400K will gonna be go to the denominator, and you're gonna put just expected net profit, and that's all, right? So ROI, which is the percentage, will give you some idea about for every dollar you invested, how much did I get back, which is great, but there will be no considerations of the cash flow and how the money will gonna be valued in the future. A lot of these actually meanings are missing in the ROI. Payback period, time required to recover the investment. NPV, which is the present value of the future cash flow minus initial investment. Difficult, right? So think about ROI is like a snapshot of the what you're gonna expected return from the investment. NPV is like a video, right? You're gonna look at the whole cash flow at least like 5 and 10 years, and what kind of return I'm gonna expect it. How that will gonna be valued in today will gonna be captured by the NPV. IRR, think about IRR as an interest rate, okay? Like an interest rate, imagine that you're gonna put some money in the bank. Well, we don't really normally have a lot of interest rate in the United States, but imagine that if you put your money in the savings account, and if their annual rate is maybe 0.01%, I'm not sure, it's gonna be very small, right? And that is captured by the IRR. What would be the return that I'm gonna get based on the percentage? And the last one is a profitability index. That's a ratio of NPV to investment cost. In general, wherever the profitability index is greater 1, okay, there's some profit. While PI is equal to 1, that's a break-even point. Where is the break-even point? We assume that profit is equal to 0, right? So, so the thing is that the PI is less than 1, the project is expected to lose to value. Okay, so let's do some exercise, right? Imagine that there's two projects. Let's think about like a Shark Tank, right? A and B. And both investors have the same rate of investment, which is ROI, right? And the project A payback period, when you're going to return your investment, is 1 year versus project B is 1.8 year. Which one would you prefer? Sooner is better, right? Sooner is absolutely better. We wanted to get payback our investment within a short amount of time, right? So in your case, in this case, we would definitely choose the project A. Okay? It's kind of straightforward, right? I'm going to make a project that's a little bit complicated. All right, so there is a project C and D. Initial investment exactly same. ROI exactly same. Payback period pretty similar. NPV, you can see that project D is greater than project C. IRR, which is the interest rate you're going to get from every single investment, the project D will going to be higher. In this case, which product would be better? Everyone take D. Do you explain like what is the reason to take the project D? D? What would be the reason for that?
Better return long term.
Better return in long term. And that is captured by? That is captured by NPV, right? Net present value, and also IRR, right? So again, this is the interest rate. How much percentage of the interest that you're going to get from every single invest that you did. NPV is like a video streaming of your investment, right? ROI is just the captures that how much you're going to get the return from your specific investment and specific point of net return. But NPV we're gonna looking at the cash flow at least 1 to 5 years and to see that how much present value that we're gonna get from the investment. Okay, so in this case, for sure, project D will gonna be more profitable, right? So let's go back to what we've done in the yesterday's workshop. Like, do you remember that we used the 50% of cheese trim and pea protein and 50% of, I think that it was cornmeal, right? Did we use a cornmeal, right? What was the result? Did you find a difference between two? One is better, the other is better? I'm not sure. I was in the team over here, so I'd say that this one is better than that one. But that's all kinds of technology, right? It's more like culinary decisions. But the blend of the ingredients also financially suitable, right? It's okay to choose like 50% of cheese and 50% of pea protein, or mix with the cornstarch, or tapioca starch, or rice flour. There's a different options for the ingredients, right? If the end result is pretty similar, we wanted to choose strategy based on the cost and price of the ingredients and also the upfront cost, right? So this is something that we're going to do in the hands-on learning sessions, that how these combinations changes will going to be changed the profitability for the producers. Also, this is not all. Of course, thinking about different recipes to make it financially stable is important. But we also want you to understand the financial resilience under different market conditions. Sometimes we could experience unexpected lower sales. Maybe the raw material prices could be changed. Labor or energy costs will gonna be changed. Market shifts. as we experienced a lot for the consumer demand, it changes over time, right? How much competitions we do have literally every year. What about the regulatory and sustainability requirements for the certifications, the labeling, or regulations types of things? Those kind of market conditions need to be considered to capture the all economic feasibility study. So I think the key takeaway is 3. I could not give you the solutions that, okay, let's do with the 50% of cheddar trim and also the 50% of cornstarch, and that's not going to give you profitable. I can't really say that because there's so many different factors that actually play in the economic feasibility study. But these are the 3 takeaways from these presentations, and hopefully we could bring this up into the hands-on session. First, profitability requires more than good ideas, right? Again, play with the different ingredients is really matter to come up with the great result that in line with the consumer's preferences in terms of flavors and texture. But at the same time, if, for example, the outcome is pretty similar, we wanted to make a strategy to choose the ingredients with the lower cost of that. And the second, we wanted to use the multiple financial tools to see the full pictures, like for example, ROI, payback, NPV, and IRR. These are all the good indicators that we really wanted to do the investment or not. And also the sensitivity analysis, we wanted to test the resilience under the different market conditions. When the prices decrease or when the market volume is decreased, like market costs are going to be fluctuated, the price that we set is good enough to make a profit in the market will going to be the key for the economic feasibility. Okay. So the thing is that I don't have commission from the extruder company, also the ingredient company at all, but I just kind of brought this idea to you all, which is very difficult to play with the number, but I just really wanted to bring this idea to you to see that what it looked like. If we invest the extruder from the manufacturer level, then how that profit will gonna be promised, how we could expect it, the interest rate, which is IRR, what is the present value of our upfront invest and things like that, okay? So I think that's all, and I think it's almost 12, so we're gonna have a lunch. I guess our lunch is ready on the bag, as I know correctly, not yet?
Yes.
Yes, the lunch is ready over the bag. So once we're done with the lunch, we're going to come back with the economic feasibility sessions with the hands-on activity. Okay, thank you so much.
Any questions before we transition to the lunch? We have a couple of minutes for any questions.
We do have a certificate, right?
At the end.
At the end.
Please don't leave before the end of the hands-on session. We have some certificates to pass to all the participants. But
Yeah.
for now, any questions for Dr. Lee before we move to the lunch? And for the lunch, we will do it from 12 to 1. So if we can start 1 sharp, that will be highly appreciated.
Absolutely. And here's a QR code. I know our workshop is not done yet, but
Yes.
while you're
Yes.
eating the lunch, I hope that you all to conduct a quick exit survey. The reason for this workshop is not for us, it's for all of you, and we wanted to learn from you that what kind of topics and or the other hands-on activities that you wanted to explore throughout the workshops. So any comments, any advice will gonna be definitely helpful for us. So when you use the camera and then just scan the QR code, and there will be maybe 10 questions at the most. So if you take your time to answer those questions, we're gonna be definitely helpful. All right, that's all.